Felix here, and welcome to this pre-market live stream. I want to walk you through the massive tech earnings we just got in, which weren't very good. If you look at Google, at AMD, at PayPal, just even Disney just in, like all looking pretty horrific. And what does that mean? What do we understand it? Is it an opportunity? And then, of course, we also have a huge crypto announcement yesterday and a bunch of other things that are moving markets today. My intention is for you to walk away as the best informed investor ever, so you can make better decisions, so you can potentially make more money, and so you can be afford heating. I don't like heating, actually. I always have the window open, so even in the winter I tend to sit here with a coat on. In case you're wondering why I'm wearing this, I'm not sponsored by whoever makes this. Mic is noisy. Mic is very loud. Hot mic is hot. Okay, we seem to be having some audio issues there. Oh wow, it is very loud. Why is it so loud? Interesting. Okay, it's a little too close, hey? Okay, I'll move it a little bit further away from the mouth. That might do the trick, but it's still pretty loud. I totally see what you mean. How's that, guys? Sound isn't great. It's distorted. Still distorted. Let me know if this is any better. If not, hot mic, better, much better. Mic gain is like, yeah, what's going on there? There's something weird going on there. I don't know why. Something about audio, that is a funky thing. But it's definitely a little too noisy. Let me take it down a notch. Okay, that should be, ooh, it's still pretty loud. All right, I shall try to speak more gently today because it is pretty loud. I know what you mean, pretty loud. A little bit lower. Maybe that's better. Tighten up your technology, says Ken. Yes, are you a sound engineer, Ken? All right, that's better. All right, so let's just jump straight into that. There's also one thing I'm very excited about. A lot of you have been begging and pleading, just like the Canadians and the I was going to say Sun Canadians, you know, Snow Mexicans and that sort of thing. Offending my Canadian friends here. Can you give me a discount code on the Mapu jacket? No, I don't do that sort of thing ever. You'll never see me do that. But what I do is this. We're going to, I said do, if anybody laughed. On Saturday, we're going to run a live breakout seminar for beginners. And a lot of you guys were asking for it because we had 7,000 people on the last seminar. And a lot of you couldn't do it because it was during the week and you were working, which I totally get. And therefore, I've relented. And I'm going to run one this Friday morning, New York time. So do check it out. And speaking of Canadians, you got to make fun sometimes, don't you? So you want to join and learn and see how we actually spot breakouts, how we make money out of them, how we beat the market and learn entry rules and exit rules. And this is really intended for beginners, so you don't need to know a thing. Come and join me on Saturday. It says Friday. It should say Saturday. Sorry about that. It should say, let's do something about that. There we go. Saturday. I corrected that. It should say Saturday. Does it say Saturday down below? It does, yes. And then sign up. We'll open up, I think, probably 3,000 spots unlimited there. It is Saturday. Then we fixed it, and that'll be that. And we did 7,000 people sign up last time, and I won't do that again because I hated Zoom. So it'll be a bit more intimate. So check it out. Now let's jump straight into the pain, right? Into the flames of hell. PayPal, right? And I'll put out a separate PayPal video because I think it's that important, honestly. I think it's an enormous opportunity in my humble opinion. Let me just show you what's good, what's bad. Revenue grew 9%. That's pretty good. Operating margin was a beat. They cut tech and development. They cut G&A. They cut the S&M, and there is 3% restructuring cost down here, which eventually will go away because you won't have to fire people forever, and then that will get added to the top here, which will improve margin, which is actually quite a good thing. But what was bad? Well, the market said gross profit margins are down. That's a terrible thing. And their guidance, so their future, was pretty unimpressive. So are they sandbagging or are they just buying themselves time? Either way, the market absolutely bloody hated it. Sean there from Canada, you know I love you really, you and all your moose. You're very welcome on the chat as usual. And then feel free to take the piss out of me. I am German. That should make life rather easy for you. So I set up a PayPal trade yesterday, which is definitely down, and I'm quite happy about that. Not that it's down, but I personally feel that this is a company with huge growth opportunities, and I think it's going to do very well. Maybe not quite as well as Palantir, not quite as quickly. And if you have seen what I've seen, the light, the chart, this was our first breakout here at about $30. Then there was the second breakout here at about $50. And actually, yesterday was another one. I don't know why it's not on the chart yet. I just told the guys. It is actually, we called it a breakout here yesterday. And you might therefore think, can I just follow the indicator, which you, by the way, you can get inside Trade Vision. Brent, you're of German descent. I'm not just of German descent. I'm actually fully fledged German, like completely, 100%. It's kind of hard to wash that off. So, although soon there won't be any Germans left, apparently we will all speak Syrian. Which apparently makes me a Nazi, but that puts me in good company with Elon, so I'm quite happy about that. Now, breakouts indicators are amazing, right? Like this. You can see these were very good calls, and we did the same thing on Tesla, for example, here. Let me show you just so you get a bit of a flair for it, and then I come back to the PayPal story. That was the last breakout we called here, and that was at about $280. So even after, the sort of sell-off here, you're still up $100, right? Which is pretty good. And SoFi, for example, here was the breakout that we called. Where's my pen? Pens are fickle. There, right? Which is pretty good. And that was at about $9.60, I think, if I recall correctly. So again, that's a pretty sweet story. Meta also, look at that. Breakout here, breakout there, right? Making money. So can you just follow the indicator, which you can definitely play around with if you want to. And there is a link down below. It's felixprehn.org/tradevision. And you can play with it for a week. But what I'm saying to you in a long-winded kind of a way is that there are sometimes breakouts that are better than other breakouts. And we will try our best to kind of codify that. But there is sort of a limit when you jump up a tremendous amount that makes the breakout riskier than, say, a smaller breakout like this one here, which is a much happier breakout. Well, this is quite a small breakout again, whereas a massive one which carries more risk. And for that, you need to learn experience. And I appreciate you don't have 5 or 10 or 20 years to learn experience, but I think we can teach you experience in weeks, not years, seriously. So if that's something you're interested in, again, come and join me on the seminar on Saturday. We go into a lot more details there because we have a lot more time for that kind of thing. Grüße aus Hameln. Interesting. The Germans are all here. Some of you went to Berlin. It says cold, isn't it? Very cold, Berlin. I used to go to Berlin rowing. I was part of sort of a semi-national rowing team type thing. And they always did a race in Berlin. And it's pretty awful. This was like, I'm talking early 90s. I mean, it really looked like some sort of Soviet hellhole. Bloody dangerous as well. They tried to like mug us or stab us every time we got off public transport, and we had to like run, literally. It was bizarre what they make 12-year-olds do in those days. But, all good and fair, and it made me leave the country. Now, AMD, and I know a lot of you are, into AMD, and perhaps you watch certain channels or something who talk about AMD like it is the golden child. And it might be eventually. But if you look at the actual earnings numbers, what's the problem with them? Look at that. Revenue up 24%. Woohoo, right? Gross profits are up. Operating profits are up. Brilliant. They are cutting expenditure, which is good. But profit margin fell 5 percentage points. They have a 6% margin. That's pretty horrible stuff. And so therefore, the market's hating it. Though they did give some very vague guidance that they thought that the future will be less horrible. So it's just, and I said this, it's just too early. It's just too early, and some stocks are just too early. It's down another 9.9%. It's down at $107, right? So it keeps falling, and I keep saying to people, learn how to spot what? Breakouts. Breakout indicators on, by the way. This is the chart. Do you see any breakouts? Anybody see any breakouts? Let me know on the chat here. Do you see any breakouts? Because I can't see any, but maybe I'm colorblind. So when I don't see any breakouts, what do? Nada, nichts, null. And it helps to preserve my money. And it also means that the money people are putting in, that's the real problem. People are putting in money here and here and here and here, right? And maybe eventually it'll go down, it'll eventually go up. So eventually here they'll say, woohoo, I made money, right? But the problem is that in that entire period, say call it a year or two, you lost money. Why did you lose money? Because other stuff went up a lot. Just the holding from last year, which, you're down all this period, the market is up 25%. So if you just bought the index and waited, you could have put 25% more in your falling knife. Right? So it's important that your money is in stuff that's actually heading in the right direction, right? Must be further to the right. Yes, I also think so. It's somewhere in the future, right? The breakout. And I think it will be, but at the moment it isn't, and earnings certainly didn't do anything to help. Now, Google reported numbers which actually on the face of it look brilliant. Revenue up 12%, margins are up, net margins are up. They're spending less money. It's just like everything is up. Cloud compute's up 30%, Google Play 30%, YouTube's flying 14% because you keep watching me. Search revenue up 13%. So what was the problem? Cloud growth is a little bit less than they're hoped for. And separately, and I think I got the data here down below, Google plans to spend $75 billion on CapEx, which is code for NVIDIA, in 2025. So you'd think NVIDIA stock would absolutely skyrocket today, wouldn't you? Well, let me show you what the NVIDIA stock is doing, because they're going to send a lot of money that way. So Wall Street, once again, is hating investment. Wall Street, once again, is short-term as a blind bat. And NVIDIA, it's up a little bit here, 1.5% or something like that, but really nothing to write home about, and it doesn't really help the story that we've got here. So it's a weird market right now. Good news is bad news, and bad news is bad news. It's one of those, really. Fox, my friend, would you change that link to the live seminar we're doing on Saturday? I would really appreciate that. Now, then also pin it at the top of the chat, because I think that's the more important live event we're going to do this week. And then you can ask me a ton of questions and, have a lot of fun over there. Don't mention Stargate. Uber, good quarter. Okay, cool. I haven't seen a look at that yet. Broadcom is also up. Yes, I did see that. I say Broadcom is one of those shiny examples here. Now, this is a screenshot from the David Sachs announcement that a Bitcoin strategic reserve is at the top of the list. And given how much these three gentlemen are smiling and laughing, I'm assuming that they are very long Bitcoin, or bought call options yesterday. So as Bitcoin moved, not really. It really hasn't. It's put it in here, BTC USD. It's $98,000. It's sort of like going nowhere really, which is weird, right? You'd think it'd go absolutely through the moon, but at the moment it isn't. So sometimes it's buy the rumor, sell the news type thing. I do still think once we get through this wobble and the tariffs and settling into this slightly mad presidency that seems to be working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and not giving us a break, I personally am very bullish on crypto, but it might take a little bit of time. Mark, yeah, I don't know what's going on with the mic here today. It's very odd because it was perfectly working earlier on, but I agree with you. There is something very fishy going on with the mic. Let me see. Let me see what's with our filters here. Emitters gain. We have a gain on. We can definitely take that off. That might help. That might help a little bit, right? That's probably a little bit better. I don't know where that was on. So it's weird. You use the exact same mic setup every single day, and then one day it changes. Probably somebody updated a driver or something. Is SoFi a sell? What's with all the SoFi misery? I don't really get it. Okay, let's have a look at SoFi then. A lot of people are like, oh, SoFi, it's all over. I don't really get it. Well, what's going on here? So we got in here at 960, and then the typical pattern is we go up and then we zigzag sideways, right? That's typically what happens. And once we figure out which way the zigzag goes, we sell. Now, arguably, you could have exited sooner. So you could have done some sort of low connect job here or something like that. And you could have gotten out here at 15.75. You'd be 50 cents better off than everybody else. And that would have been a reasonable thing to do. And you could also have said, 50-day moving average line, you and me, we are not friends. And you could have exited here or there or here or in fact here, which again would all be reasonable things to do if that's what your rulebook says. But you need a rulebook. That's the number one thing. If you are in a trade and you're asking yourself, what should I do with it? It means you're missing the rulebook. And you're going to get into hot waters because emotions are going to take over, and emotions make us do all sorts of strange things, right? I mean, very strange things. So not a good place to be. So you've got to write out rules. And you've got to have fixed rules that you actually stick to, no matter what happens. And then you exit the trade when you want to exit it. Now, I haven't exited SoFi, personally. Doesn't mean you shouldn't. Because just kind of range bound. If I didn't exit it at 30 to 65, why would I exit at 15.25? That's sort of my question. And I just think the company is fundamentally performing. One of the reasons it's not doing super well as a stock is because interest rates aren't coming down, and that's ultimately what will drive the whole fintech sector. And that'll happen at some point, but at the moment it isn't. There's an ETX called Finex, which tracks the sort of global fintech stock world. And look at what that's doing. It looks pretty similar as a chart, right? So it's kind of the whole industry isn't really doing all that much. And maybe you're thinking, well, how do I know that? How do I know if SoFi is doing better or worse than the index? We have a little indicator in Trade Vision, which again, you're super welcome to get yourself a free trial for, and you can make this bigger actually. You can actually see it. And that goes from negative to positive. When it's positive, you're doing better than the sector. At the moment, we're at 4, which means we're doing massively better than the sector. So this is still a very, very strong outperformer compared to the sector since it started outperforming the sector, which was here in sort of October, which was basically when the breakout kicked in, right? You see that here, just before. So that's also something I watch out for, that we're actually still outperforming the sector, even though the sector is lagging a little bit. So for me, I like it. For me, it's a longer term play, but I get it. If you're a short term trader, then you can obviously exit. What about the student loan unforgiveness program? When that helps SoFi, it will. Yes, absolutely. Student loans will be unforgiven. That's a lovely phrase. I like it. So that's pretty good. Now, I wanted to get you through a couple of other things, and then I'll take your questions here. I don't know why we've got some funky formatting in here. This is from Goldman Sachs, and he says choppy market, which is a polite way of putting it. And he says, okay, Nvidia isn't really going anywhere. Apple isn't really going anywhere. Microsoft is below its 200-day moving average, and it's looking at a 7-year low price earnings multiple. It's looking rather cheap, right? So I thought, well, let's have a look at those charts, shall we? Let's have a look at Nvidia. And what do you see? Well, the last breakout was very handily something we flag it here. And then the stock went a little bit choppy, and then up here it went actually very choppy. For those of you guys who've watched my masterclass, you sort of know what that means. It means you're going to go one way. Either you're going to go up or you're going to go down. And we went down, which is not a good thing. So no momentum here in Nvidia. I completely agree with that. Microsoft, I think, looks a little bit more interesting. We have a room full of sound engineers. It's weird. Like I haven't changed a bloody thing. I have no idea why it's being acting up, but I appreciate it isn't quite the usual, ASMR perfection that you're used to from me. Let's try that again. Maybe maybe you just want me to unzip the jacket. Is that what this is all about? Microsoft is also going sort of nowhere, right? It's just sort of in this channel here, and it's at the bottom end of that channel. Typically, we've bounced off it because the dip buyers come out because they realize Microsoft is a safe stock. It's a company with lots of money, and you know, everybody uses it, and you can't really live without it. But it also isn't really giving us a clear signal. Now, I did set up a Microsoft trade, which at the moment isn't really doing anything yet, which is essentially a bet that it's going to stay above $400, which would be here, right? There. So at the moment, I'm okay with this sort of non-performance. One thing I do watch out for is from a trend collection point of view. So the stock is going down, basically, right? Volume is also going down, which tends to indicate that we are near the bottom. You never know where the bottom is, but we tend to be near the bottom, which is pretty good. We're also massively underperforming the software index, the software sector, which is usually also something that's quite sort of level playing field. I mean, you know, market bottom sort of signal. Software updates in the background can reset your settings. Yeah, so something like that. Well, the settings are the same. I think it's something to do with the, you know, the sort of AI algos. These things now are all built in, and they change things, even though you haven't changed a thing. So yeah, sometimes that's amazing. Sometimes that's frustrating. So I think there's some opportunities here. That's what I'm saying. Essentially, I think Microsoft for me out of these three is probably my favorite. Doesn't mean it needs to be yours. This is another one. Meta, Zuckerberg, you know, the most likable man in the world. It had this kind of, this is the trajectory since listing. If you'd put $10,000 into Meta, you'd be up 184. Well, you would have had $184,000 right now, literally an 18xer. It's pretty good. And it's really benefiting from the whole AI boom story. And it's definitely, I think, a story in a stock worth paying attention to. They are doing a lot of things right. And did we have a breakout? Did we call a breakout somewhere? Called the last one here in July. And then, well, we all collapsed in July, didn't we? The one before that was perhaps a little bit better in February. And again, not every breakout we call is going to be 100% accurate. No indicator is. Otherwise, you know, we charge you $1 billion for it. Will you buy puts for AMD? No. And the simple reason for that is, and I've said this before, don't go against the trend. And the trend is semiconductors, right? So semiconductors, I'm opening up here SOX, which is not on a massive sell-off. Right? It's a cyclical world, but if you are looking for a trend, there was a downtrend. This was a downtrend. That was a little bit of a downtrend. Is that a downtrend yet? I don't know. For me, because the lows are very flat, you see. We didn't have that here. The lows were also falling, and here. So therefore, would not be shorting a semiconductor stock at this point. Is Google an overreaction? Quite possibly. Yeah, I think quite possibly. I think very, very good earnings all around us. Minus 7% is definitely a little. It's definitely a little bit on the mad side. That's a massive drop here, and brings us just back into range, really, doesn't it? But yeah, it's weird. I thought the numbers were pretty good. What were the last earnings like? That was a spike up, and then we came back down. The previous one was a big drop, but look how we continued dropping, right? After the July earnings. Also had something to do with what happened in August. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have. I have a little bit less faith in this than in Microsoft for some reason. But if you look at the pattern, it's kind of a beautiful thing, right? And then, boom. But actually, we're still very, very much within the trend, aren't we? We're still. Hey, what happened? What happened? Let me try that again. Am I allowed to draw a line today? Yes. We're at the very bottom range right now of that trend. We're a little bit below it, I think, in fairness, but not that much below it. Get rid of some of these. See what I mean here? That blue one there, and then I can get rid of that one too. So, go away. What's going on there? So, yeah, it might bounce off, but 7.2% down is a pretty big thing for a stock that size. AMD, and it don't, my friend. I really wouldn't recommend it. Will you please share your exit strategy with your PayPal credit spread going south? Patience. It's presently my strategy on that one. There is some risk in every trade. We don't win every trade. I'm not saying that we will. But, you know, the question is really like, do we bottom out here and then do we sort of recover? We actually just needed to go sideways, right? We don't even need it to go up. So we have a little bit of room there, but you also need to have an exit rule for sure. You need to have that exit strategy. And one I might suggest is the 150-day moving average line, which sits here at 77.30. So if we drop close below that, then that's definitely a bad sign. And we haven't done that in a while at PayPal, not since sort of the last breakout. But yeah, so for the moment, I'm sitting tight on that one. I'm doing absolutely nothing. Most of the time, doing nothing is the best thing to do. Tesla, we can have a look at that for sure. And seriously, like thousands and thousands and thousands of you come onto these calls every day, and I love that, and I really appreciate that you have a desire to learn. But I'm actually offering you the answers, right? Not just for like what's happening to Tesla today, but I'm actually giving you the structures. If you want to come and learn the structure with me, then join me on Saturday morning. And I'm doing it specifically on Saturday for all of you who have jobs still. And our goal is to get you out of those jobs and into freedom and actually enjoying life. So come and sign up for that seminar at felixprehn.org/seminar, which will be live and fun and probably take maybe 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, depends a bit on how many questions you guys want to ask. And I'll go into a lot more depth of what we actually, what we actually see and how to actually give you those rules and the entries and exits and so on. So Tesla breakout was here, pretty good call. And right now we're basically flat. Now we're below the 50-day moving average line, which is a little bit of a warning sign for sure. But we're also just sort of moving flat. Now, are there some risks to Tesla? Yeah, the tariffs. The tariffs actually a short-term risk to Tesla. You want an IV history button line and trade vision? No, I actually really like that idea. My Ohio chap there, I actually really like that. It's a bit of a niche one for us options traders, but yeah, I can see the value in that. Does Winston have a masterclass? Well, he taught me, so I'm just regurgitating what he told me. He's the real chief around here. Is AMD going to make millionaires? I hope so for all of you in it, but at the moment it's a falling knife, and it continues to be a falling knife. I've been saying that for months, so be careful with that. Ding a ding 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 ding. Big Bear AI comes up quite a lot here. John says, isn't Tesla in a cone for a breakout? You mean, I see what you mean. You're sort of drawing a line here and then that one, right? And then it doesn't tell you which way it's going to go. It's either going to go up this way or it's going to go that way. So you can't predict the pattern before it's actually completed. That would be my thought on that. AMD can make billionaires millionaires. Yes, that was also entirely true. Okay, so let's have a look at the markets open. Have a quick look at Doomberg's misery. Trump wants to develop Gaza as a sort of Gaza Riviera for for the Middle East. Interesting proposition. I mean, obviously an interesting one, and it's a thing you can only put your foot in, really. But yeah, see what happens there. That could be an interesting story there for the Middle East. Trade gap balloons, tariff promises, US Postal Service, Yellen era long-term debt plan. Okay. Yeah, obviously the present debt being piled up is continuing because the cuts that they are making, Elon and lot, will take a little while to kick in. But yeah, they're just sort of nothing they're really reporting that's particularly useful, right? Economic data, what do we have in today? We had better than expected employment changes from ADP. And ADP is a private organization, so it isn't subject to the usual cajoling of data by the apparatchiks in Washington. So they're saying we got more jobs than thought, which is interesting after yesterday's JOLTS data, which was worse than expected and has some people freaking out. So I would say they kind of cancel each other out, and we're still not going to get any rate cuts, at least until the summer, which is, I think, what a lot of us are waiting for. Tomorrow, we're going to get some more jobs data, and Friday, guess what? We're going to get some more jobs data. It's a jobs week. Daniel is asking if this is live. Let's see if that answers his question. Can you imagine adverts saying, visit Gaza? Well, it's beautiful, right? The coastline and the beach and all of that is beautiful. It's just the problem is that it's full of tunnels and unexploded ordnance, and just this misery and just horror really all around us. So be interesting to see what happens over there. Can you add the watch list into Trade Vision to the advanced charts CS? Yeah, we're actually working on that. There are no adverts for visiting Arabic countries. They do have those adverts, they just don't show them to you in your country because they don't think you're going to go. But say if you go to Dubai, you will see a lot of adverts for Oman or Saudi or places like that for sure. What about lucid, Felix? I'm not lucid today, am I? I'm just making absolutely no sense whatsoever. Is that what you're saying? Just teasing you there. Kushner wanted to develop Gaza. It's a concentration camp. That's probably a little bit of a interesting view. But you're very free to say whatever you like, really. Do we have a golden retriever to be a trading expert? We have Winston. We just need Winston. Uber. All right, let's look at Uber then, since people are shouting Uber from the rooftops. And the fact that you're asking me about my opinion on Uber means that you don't quite fully understand yet how to read charts. And the wisdom and the beauty that they give you. And I would therefore invite you wholeheartedly and freely to our live seminar on Saturday, where I will teach you precisely that. Where do we buy on a chart like this? Where do we exit on a chart like this? We don't buy on a chart like this because certain lines are going down and we're below that 150 line. So to me, nothing here has really changed on the earnings. 6% down. It's not that big a deal considering where we've traded lately. So I just would do nothing at all with it. Can you trade during after hours? Yes, you can if you must. Roten says that a lot of people are even moving there. Have you been to Dubai, my friend? I think you'd be very, very pleasantly surprised. It's actually it's a lovely place. Just don't go in the summer. It's a little too hot. Julie, you've been in Gaza. Yeah, very beautiful beaches. I mean, most of Israel actually has very, very beautiful beaches. Now someone's going to come and kill me because I called Gaza Israel. I didn't actually say that. But the coastline that they share, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway. Did you see that Trump is opening up a sovereign wealth fund? Yes, I made a video on that yesterday, actually. It's got Trump on the thumbnail. Go watch it. I think it's very, very insightful. Can your software track trades from multiple accounts to brokers? Coming up, Janine. We're working on that. That is one of the features we are adding to Trade Vision. If you haven't, it's coming. Is there a disadvantage to trading after hours? Yes, very low volume. So the bid-ask tends to be quite wide. So the market makers make more money than you usually. Oh, human rights, my friend. Yes, Floater. Yes. Well, I mean, Europe isn't all that great at it either. Brits aren't all that great at it. The Americans aren't all that great at it. But yeah, you know, Let's not get into politics too deeply here, I think. It'll be called Gaza Alago. Yeah, that's what I heard. Okay. Does the blue jacket come with matching shoes? No, not really, not really. Right. Fox is reminding me to tell you to sign up for the live breakout seminar for beginners this very Saturday, 9 a.m. New York time, where I will teach you how we actually spot these big, beautiful, shiny breakouts like this one here, and how we therefore know that this one is one that we want to buy, and exactly at what point do we want to exit. And you can then apply that to any stock ever in the world for the rest of your life, and you'll be so happy and so wealthy, you're going to want to move to Gaza. So the greed of a banker and the ethics of a lawyer, well, that's a compliment and a half from a French person, isn't it, JP? I'm going to call you JP. I'm sure that irritates you terribly. Yeah, I think what we need in all situations, no matter how terrible it is a sense of humor. I think that's really the only way to get through life, really. So we could joke about here about literally everything. Nancy was right again. Tempest, yeah, Tempest is doing very, very well. IBM, is that a breakout? I didn't see that on the list the other day. I don't recall. Farouk is asking me about a chap I don't know. Never heard that name, my friend. Don't know what it is about. It sounds like someone Turkish, but I don't know who it is. Yeah, we called it a breakout here at sort of $25 or something like that. Volume is still pretty elevated. I think it's a reasonable call, sort of a textbook call. Hasn't moved all that much. You need to stop the Gaza jokes. Okay. Someone has no sense of humor on Gaza. It's always funny, isn't it? Someone thinks, it's not funny. It's not funny to you. It's okay. It's funny to me. See, it's entirely your right to not be amused and be offended, even if you must. People enjoy being offended several times a day. And you're right. And it's my right to make very bad jokes that are in very, very bad taste and entirely inappropriate to and offensive to a lot of people. So if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. Scott's registering for the webinar. Right, see you there, my friend. See you on Saturday. Spotify breakout. Fox wants me to look at that. Okay, I shall, my friend. I shall look at what Spot is saying here. Stocks don't get offended. Exactly, Scott. Money doesn't get offended, really. It doesn't really care where it's coming from. Your portfolio doesn't get offended, whether you are good at it or whether you suck at it. It just sits there and just puts up with whatever drivel that comes out of your mouth. Yeah, we called it a breakout yesterday. See, in Trade Vision, we did yesterday. So far today, it's holding up. Most of the time, breakouts move like this, by the way. There's usually that dip there. And if it goes too deep, then you were wrong on the breakout, which also happens. Crash Snodgrass, that's an interesting screen name. You say, I'm extremely happy with my Trade Vision information. Well, you're going to be even happier. Give it a couple of weeks. We've got a ton of stuff that we're putting out. And I'm very, very happy as well about that as well. Why is Tempest doing so well? Because Nancy said she bought it. That's literally the only reason. Margaret, you registered for the webinar. Brilliant. Any EU stocks to watch? Any that the Commissar hasn't got his hands on yet in Europe? There are some. I mean, European defense stocks have done very well because somebody started a war somewhere a little bit further east than Germany, which has been very profitable for many. I think LVMH could be a long-term play if you don't mind a bit of pain in the meantime. I think people haven't quite priced in the pain there, but it's still a pretty good stock. I think the fat shamers from Denmark, also pretty good setup, although it's getting a bit more competitive. That's pretty much it from Europe for me, honestly. I think the rest of the continent it's an open air museum for innovation, really. Nice culturally, beautiful architecture, very pleasant to go to in the summer. I'm off to there in May, as I usually am, and I will enjoy and admire the beauty of it, and then I will pack my bags and leave it and complain about a lot of it. So there we are. Ferrari, yes, Scott. Actually, that's one that could go on the list. I think that's a reasonable one. What about BlackBerry? I thought they went bankrupt 30 years ago. Best phone I ever had, to be honest with you. SAP, yeah. I'm not so sure about that. Ross says, gay pal better have a clear plan with the ad thing they're supposedly going to do someday. There is an investor day coming up in this month. So I think that's going to be one that I'll watch very, very carefully. And that'll give us quite a good indication of which way this is going. PayPal is recovering slightly at the moment, up 0.5 percentage point, which is all right. But much of the market seems to be recovering a little. Not a lot, just a little to keep us on our toes. Tesla's down 2%. Melissa says, some people don't like people talking without filter. Yeah, and there's this whole thing about, political correctness and so on. And I've never really been very good at that. I remember I was in London, I was at uni, and there was a lovely girl who was living opposite me in Halls, who was American. And I said something about, I don't know, you know, so-and-so. And she said, who? And I said, the black guy at the end of the corridor. And she said, you can't say that. That's incredibly offensive. And I was like, but he wasn't offended. It's true, right? Why is that offensive? So some people are just offended very, very easily. I never really got the whole PC thing. I think it's a load of bollocks. I think it's kind of there to divide us, really. I've got friends in all colors, and I'm, very, very odd, pale color of shade of white. And I think it's all fine. I think it's about intention and how things are said. And I think you can say a lot of things with a sense of humor, and it actually makes the world a better place. And I think we can make fun of all the issues that are out there. But if you don't like it, then I suggest you find another channel, because I will always be pretty unfiltered. Now, come and join me on Saturday morning. I will be awake on the weekend just for you, and I will be running a live beginners trading seminar just for you lot with jobs, so you can eventually quit those jobs. And the link is down below there, felixprehn.org/seminar. And our friend Fox has pinned it, or he hasn't pinned it. I shall pin it right now. It's in the chat. It's also down below in the description. And don't get me started on Disney. Absolute horror show, those people, in my view. But Ross, I love that you read my comment without censoring it. Yeah, I thought it was funny. I don't think everything is funny, but I think a lot of things are funny. So, are you starting to look at the Forex market with the tariffs? Yeah, I don't really trade Forex, to be honest with you. It's never really been, I just never got much joy out of just the chart that's just numbers. I kind of like a company behind it somehow. That's maybe just me. So, there we are. If you want to learn more about charts and how to find entries and know when to exit so you don't become a bag holder, come and join me on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. New York time, felixprehn.org/seminar. I wish you a beautiful day. Take care.